Welcome, good students. Now, as I had promised you earlier, that we are looking at all the components of English as integrated, as it is integrated, because it is made up of paper 1, 2, and 3. Now, we've successfully, not completely or exhaustively, but I'm convinced that those number of uploads that they are enlightening, or they're touching a couple of few things that can maybe make you think otherwise of your maybe knowledge as far as paper 1 is concerned. Now, for this one here, this is paper 2, no, paper 3, sorry. We are still looking at the final touches even as you're preparing to sit for your November exams. Now, still the blossoms, because it's an exam, is an examined text before the new set text. They are maybe incorporated in the curriculum fully. You are likely to sit for these ones this year as you're finalizing or you're doing the final touches. So therefore, let's look at a couple of few things here that can maybe make sense and relevant to the exams. Now, the blossoms of the savannah, this time around we're going to be looking at the excerpts. And of course, their sample responses. This is November, as we're looking for the projections of November 2022. Let's read excerpt number 1. Later, Tayo was surprised to see that the seemingly helpless and toothless old man was one of the most revered elders in the community. She saw him get up from where he sat with the other two old men and, leaning heavily on his walking stick, moved to the center of the living room. His pace was dignified as he walked with his chin up and his mouth set in a hard, straight line. That was the time Tayo observed his heavily wrinkled face. There was a haughty set to his features. For a moment, Tayo felt as if he had fastened his eyes on her and that his gaze was like a physically oppressive force upon her. She suddenly felt in much awe of him. When he began to speak, his voice boomed and its resonance filled the crowded room. He introduced himself as Old Musanka, a member of the Il Makesen clan and of Il Terito age set. He said Nasila was a Ma house and anybody born of Ma was entitled to its shelter. Ma culture was the blood and marrow that gives sustenance to the body. And the body was the collective masses of the Ma. Olekaelo, he said, was a tiny strand of air that had been blown away from its owner's head by a gust of wind. The same wind that had blown it away had blown the strand back to its owner's head. He said that the head could not refuse to receive back the returning strand, but the onus was upon the strand to attach and coil itself back onto the rest of the hair on the head and blend with it. If it did not, he warned, it will drop and get trampled upon the ground. He advised Olekailo to re-assimilate himself into his people's culture. Those of us who have been listening to the sound of our cattle bells, he said, quoting the children's song, know that Olekailo's cattle are homebound. They were bound to come, for the founder said that when a rat begins to smell, it returns to its mother's home. And speaking of home, Ole Musanga said candidly, Olekailo must be told, home is not this house, however magnificent it may be. Home is Ma, home is Nasila, home is family, and home is the children. Kill one of those 4 pillars and there is no home to speak about. Sever yourself from the culture of your people and you effectively become Olkirikoi, a man of no fixed abode. Your elegant house notwithstanding, where are the women of Ma? Embrace the wife and children of Ole Kailo and bring them back into the Nasila fold. Where are the elders of Ilmolelian? There is your man. Cut him loose from the snares of alien cultures. I'm through. Then he had a parting shot for Tayo and Ratian. Do not listen to crusaders of an alien culture that is being perpetrated by a Taba. May she go down with the setting sun. Certain Intagoroi rather called a Makerere, those WASP advocates that we maintain into Iyene Mengalana amongst our daughters, Taba. May she go down with the setting sun. After that voluble curse, the old man blessed the Olekailos. He had a special blessing for the daughter of Ole Kailo, who served him a special dish that evening. He prophesied that she will be the mother of the next leader of the Nasila Ma. Questions. Questions, that is after successfully reading that particular extract. And I would recommend that you go through it personally and individually as you interact with the words on the lines. From the information given just before this excerpt, state 2 reasons why the ceremony in this passage is being held. From the information given just before this excerpt, state 2 reasons why the ceremony in this passage is being held. The ceremony in this passage, that is our response, good learners, is being held to receive Olekaila and his family back into the Ilimolelian fold among the Nasila people to offer blessings for his family's well-being. B. Why is Tayo surprised to find that the old man was a respected member of the community? Earlier on, Tayo had looked at the old man with piteous eyes as he struggled to eat some meat. She was surprised to find that the pitiable man was a respected elder. That is the pitiable man, rather. Explain clearly Ole Musanga's analogy of the blood and marrow in reference to the Ma culture. Explain clearly Ole Musanga's analogy of the blood and marrow in reference to the Ma culture. Analogy, good students, is the use of a small story, a relevant example to explain a complex idea. The Ma culture enabled the Ma people to live well with one another. It gave them the ability to survive in the same way that the blood and the bone marrow helped the human body to do what? To survive by distributing oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body. D. Identify and illustrate 2 themes evident in this excerpt. Identify and illustrate 2 themes evident in this excerpt. 1. Tradition. Ole Musanga explains his clan and age set. He also explains the importance of the Ma culture and why every Ma person must conform to it. He even uses the proverb of the fat to justify his advice. Alienation. Ole Kaelo had been away from his people, and a lot must be done to reintegrate him back into the community. That is why the ceremony is being conducted. He is compared to a strand of hair that had detached itself from the body. 3. Cultural conflict. There is a conflict between the strict and adherence to Ma culture as advocated by Ole Musanga and the alien culture that he refers to as advocated by Emakerere. Question E. Cut him loose from the snares of alien culture. Rewrite this sentence using an appropriate phrasal verb. Cut him off. Help him break away from the snares of alien culture. So, cut him loose, that is just literally to cut him off. F. In note form, summarize Ole Musanga's praise of the Ma culture. In note form, summarize Ole Musanga's praise of the Ma culture. 1. Ma culture was the blood and marrow that gave sustenance to the body. 2. Ma culture was like home, and home is Ma, Nasila, family and children. 3. If you sever yourself from the culture of your people, you become a man of no fixed abode. 4. The young people should not listen to the crusaders of an alien culture. G. Identify and illustrate 2 devices of style evident in this excerpt. Identify and illustrate 2 devices of style used in this excerpt. 1. Imagery. For example, like a physically oppressive force upon her, Ole Kaelo was a tiny strand of hair. That is the use of imagery language right there. Vivid description. Ole Musanga is described as a toothless old man. Use of a language that creates pictures in the reader's mind. Use of oral literary devices. Those of us who have been listening to the sound of our cowbells, he said, quoting the children's song. Use of local idiom. Olkirikoi, Emakerere, Intoi and Mengalan, which are simples. They stand for another attribute, or they stand for a different idea. Like Olkirikoi, Emakerere, like a protagonist against the, let's say, for example, the Nasidian way of life. And the Intoi and Mengalana are uncircumcised. So when you're labeled, that one is an idiomatic expression which stands for something. H. Briefly explain who a Makerere is. Briefly explain who a Makerere is. A Makerere is a crusader against female genital mutilations, that is FGM. Her name comes from the fact that she has attended Makerere University. Her real name is Minik Enengoitoi. She is a veterinary doctor and a manager of a sheep ranch. 5. She gives shelter to Roshan and Tayo and eventually assists them to enroll at Egerton University, thereby helping them to fulfill their dreams. And finally, good learners, explain the meaning of each of the following words and phrases as they are used in the excerpt. Explain the meaning of each of the following words and phrases as they are used in the excerpt. Haughty, that's proud and self-confident. Of no fixed abode, homeless. Sustenance, live, that is the ability to live well. And perpetrated, that is preached or advocated. Good students, brace yourself with this particular work even as you're preparing for your end of course exams, and you'll never regret. Any little thing that you put your effort into never goes unrewarded. And above all, I just want to wish you the very success in your endeavors. Good day for now.